Hello, beautiful creative friends. It's Belinda, and I'm back today with another new project to share with you for the Confessions of a Paper Addict design team. I'm working with one of the new release cut files this month. This is the Star Cutout cut file, and as you can see, I've gone ahead and cut that 3 times out of some white cardstock in 3 different sizes. I have also used my silhouette to cut out the backing pieces, which you can see just to the left there, and I've chosen 3 different patterned papers. Now, the products that I'm using, I've got a stack of boy themed products in a little box. I went through and pulled out this 6x6 paper pad. It's quite an old one. I think it's from COAPA, I believe, Cool Kid or something like that. And then to go along with it, I have grabbed some digital elements because I do also have the digital collection, which is where this background paper is from. And then I've pulled some bits and pieces from a few different, actually I think it's only from one older Cocoa Vanilla collection called You Rock. Now I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 layout today. I wanted to sort of play around with size, and I wanted to create something that was going to be really quick and easy to put together, and this certainly fits the bill. So you can see that when I printed out that background piece that was from a digital paper, I actually left the center of it white, and I have cut out the inside of that because that white cardstock I can then use to back photos with or to type out journaling. So I try not to waste my precious white cardstock because I am very precious about my white cardstock. So I am going ahead now and I'm just applying a little bit of adhesive around each of these star cutout cut files, and then I am adhering them down onto the backings that I have cut out. You can see that I've left a little bit of a border, so I've made those circles that are going in the background about, I think they're about 1/4 of an inch bigger than the actual circles that are around the cut file. The other thing I did when I cut these out is I flipped one of them horizontally, and that's just to have the stars going in a slightly different direction, which gives a little bit of visual interest once they're all laid down on the page. So I'm just showing you there, I've gone ahead and added a stitched border to that background. I used a nice thick black cotton for that. I have also prepped my photos, these adorable little photos of my son when he was, I think, about 2 years old. I've cut them out using a circle die. I've cut the border from that white cardstock using a circle die the next size up. And then the pieces of pattern paper that you can see, you're not going to be able to see it here on camera, but it's actually a stitched border circle die. So there's another little bit of visual interest there. When I lay these down, you can sort of see it there as I'm playing with them. So I wanted to add just a tiny bit of dimension behind these photos, and it feels a little bit wasteful to be using this many foam dots on one single layout, but these little foam dots that I have are really, really low profile, so they give just a little bit of depth without going over the top. And of course, I didn't want to just put them on the outside and have the center of the photo sink, so I just made sure that I'd placed enough of them around behind the photo to help them to stay nice and sturdy there. So I'm going to play around with the placement of these circles a little bit. I did play around with it a little bit in my Silhouette Studio software before I started cutting them out, but I will be completely honest and say that it all ended up a lot bigger and took up a lot more space on the layout than I had actually intended it to. It's okay, I make it work, and I'm really, really happy with the finished layout, but it definitely it was a little bit bigger than I had intended it to be. But that's the placement that I've settled on there. Everything has just been adhered down flat onto the page. There's not a whole lot of dimension here. So this little white space down here to the bottom right is the perfect spot for my journaling. There's nothing particularly special to say here. It was just, I've got loads of photos of my kids when they were really little like this, making their adorable little funny faces, and I've printed lots of them out, and I like to get them down onto pages and into albums because I just think they're so cute. And we don't always have to have a really big story for why we're documenting something. Sometimes it's just, I wanted to capture this little moment in time and his sweet, funny little faces that he was making. So now I'm up to embellishing. I'm going to keep it fairly simple. I'm going to create 3 little clusters here. One of the clusters is going to be the home for my title, which is that 1 in a million. That's a chipboard piece there, because a part of it is going to be sitting on top of the photo that has got those foam dots behind them. I need to make sure that the other side of that chipboard piece is elevated a little bit so that it doesn't bend in the middle. And then I'm going to use my T-square ruler to make sure that it's nice and straight there. I have also layered a vellum, not a vellum, it's a washi strip underneath, and I'm going to repeat that washi strip element in the other 2 clusters that I'm building. So I've got one that's going on the bottom here, and I will build another little one up to the top right. And I like to build my clusters in 3s wherever I can, because it is a really good design rule for keeping the eye moving around the page, and it also just helps to keep things a little bit balanced. So this is quite an old Cocoa Vanilla collection here. I've got some stickers, I've got some chipboard pieces, and I'm just having a look through to find some sentiments and some little bits and pieces that go well with this layout. So I've got that word phrase strip there that says, "Love this boy." I've also pulled out a little chipboard star. So I think I have got 3 chipboard stars left on that chipboard sheet, and I'm going to use all 3 of them on this layout. So you can see that in the background there's a few different pops of color. The actual tone of the pattern papers that I've used behind the photos is quite monochromatic, but the background paper has got some bright yellows and some reds popping out. So I'm bringing those colors into my little embellishment clusters, again, just to help it to feel a little bit more balanced and to bring a little bit of extra color in, which helps, as I said a few times now, to keep the eye moving around the page. So once I've got that last little strip down there, it's just going to say Heartbreaker. I'm going to add my chipboard stars into that cluster up the top. I can't remember if I add a chipboard star into the one in the middle or not. Maybe I don't, because the actual title is from chipboard. But what I am about to do now is bring in I'm going to use some Nuvo drops, and I'm also using a scrapbook.com pops of color. This is actually the first time that I'm using a bottle of the pops of color. I've got quite a few of them, and I have to say I'm not sold on the consistency of these. They're not quite as easy to use as my Nuvo drops are, so I'm going to have a bit of a play and a bit of a practice with them. But I'm just going to scatter those around in a few different places. As you can see, I've chosen yellow and I have chosen red just to bring those colors out again. This is the point where I would be saying that there are close-up photos coming, but for whatever reason, I don't actually have any close-up photos. I've just got one final photo, which you're about to see here. And so with that, I will leave it there and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have